What's up, guys? Stacy here from Becoming Financially Fit, and today we have an interesting topic to talk about. Today we're going to be talking about the main differences between a 401k versus a Roth IRA. And I know this is a very, very important topic that a lot of you guys have probably been thinking about. So today I just want to give like a couple of examples of how a 401k and a Roth IRA are different, how they are similar, and how you can make the best option for you and your retirement plan in the future. But before we get started, if you guys are new to my channel, I make videos about personal finance, financial literacy, savings, investing, and I also try to throw some entrepreneurship in there as well. So if you're interested in any of those topics or you want to see more videos like this in the future, make sure you subscribe to the channel and don't forget to hit the bell to be updated anytime I post new content. Okay, let's get into it. So for starters, how do contributions work for both a Roth IRA and a 401k? This is one of the biggest differences that a lot of people don't know about, but for starters, a 401k, the contributions are going to be pre-tax. And what that means is that let's say you make $1,000 every 2 weeks in your normal day job. Out of that $1,000, let's say you want to put in $200 out of every paycheck. That takes your taxable income down from $1,000 every 2 weeks to $800 every 2 weeks, which means that you're going to be paying less money in taxes when you do those contributions. And that's completely different than a Roth IRA because a Roth IRA is taking contributions via after-tax money. So that means, let's say in that same example, you have $1,000 paycheck and taxes are taken out. You can only put in money that's already been taxed into a Roth IRA after those taxes have been taken out. And this is going to be a big difference that comes up later on in some of the examples that I talk through, but that's one of the huge differences just to get you guys started. And so now that we know how money goes into a retirement plan like a Roth IRA or a 401k, how does money come out? Well, for starters, in a 401k, when you take the money out of your 401k, let's say you're 65, 70, you're starting retirement, and you want to take some money out of that 401k to fund your retirement. Well, that money is going to be taxed. Everything is going to be taxed. Not only the money that you put in because it was pre-tax, but also the interest and dividends that you received along that time period. All of that is going to be taxed. And this is something that a lot of people forget to think about when they're trying to decide between a Roth IRA or 401k. That's one of the huge differences. When you take the money out, it's taxed, and it's taxed at your normal tax rate. So the reason why a lot of people go into a 401k when they're, trying to think about retirement planning is because they think that right now tax rates are pretty high. If you're making a lot of money and you're in a higher tax bracket, you want to save some of that money aside. So when you're in retirement and you're only taking out a small portion of that money, your tax bracket should be a lot lower. So the thinking about, putting money in pre-tax and taking it out when you're in retirement is that your income will be substantially lower. But if it's higher, then you're going to be paying higher taxes than, you would at the time. So that's one of the main differences. And then you look at the distributions for a Roth IRA. This is going to be a win-win situation when you really look at the details. So for a Roth IRA, when you take the money out, not only is the money that you put in tax-free, but also the dividends and the interest is tax-free as well. So essentially what this means is you put in money that's already been taxed, right? And once you let that money grow, you're buying and selling different stocks, mutual funds, different things like that within that Roth IRA account. All that money grows tax deferred. You do not have to pay taxes. Let's say you buy a stock for $100 and you sell it for $200. That $100 gain, you do not have to pay taxes on it. And then let's say 30, 40 years down the road, when you want to take that money out, because you put it in after taxes into that Roth IRA, you don't have to pay taxes on the money you put in or the gains that you received. But there are some caveats to that, and we'll go through those here in a bit. So now let's get into some similarities and some differences between a Roth IRA and a 401k. For starters, they both allow you to grow your funds tax deferred, which means that you do not have to pay any taxes as long as the money is growing inside of that account. Once you take it out, it's different. But along the time that the money is in the account, when you're buying and selling and you're gaining money and you're getting dividends, you do not have to pay taxes on any of that throughout the years. So that's something to note. But one of the huge differences to note is that in a 401k, even though you're getting that tax deferment throughout the years that you're building up your retirement funds, you will have to pay taxes at some point in time. Versus if you're putting money into a Roth IRA, you will not have to pay taxes if you hold on to it for a certain period of time and you reach a certain age. Now, another question a lot of people ask is, where do I really start with investing in a retirement plan? Well, there's a bunch of options out there, but now that we're just focused on either a 401k or a Roth IRA, I'm going to give you some details about how you get started in each one of them. So with a 401k, it's an employer-sponsored retirement plan, which means you have to have some type of employer. And when you go to your employer, usually the first couple weeks or the first month or so, they'll give you the option to enroll in their 401k plan. And what that pretty much means is that you will be able to denote a specific portion or amount of money that's deducted from each one of your paychecks that goes directly into that retirement account. You set it, you forget it, you don't have to think about it, it's automatic. And like I said before, that lowers your taxable income throughout the year. Versus a Roth IRA, you can pretty much set that up with any broker out there, whether that's T. Rowe Price, Fidelity, Vanguard, pretty much any broker out there that advertises about their investments accounts and everything like that. They have an option where you can go in and you can set up a Roth IRA, and that's you and the investment company dealing directly together. Which means that when you go in to set up that Roth IRA, not only can you pick between mutual funds, ETFs, index funds, and things like that, but you can also do individual stocks versus most 401k plans only allow you to invest in some mutual funds, some ETFs, and maybe some target date option plans that kind of glide you to that path of retirement. So there's a lot more options when you're picking a Roth IRA versus when you're picking investment options in your 401k. And now, before we get too far ahead, I want to ask you guys a question. What type of investment account do you guys have that's set up specifically for your retirement? Do you have a 401k? Do you have a Roth IRA? Or do you have both? Drop a comment below and let me know, and I'll give you some more details about which is better, which is worse, and some of the pros and cons of both. So I think the primary goal of everyone that's watching this video is to have some type of retirement set up. So when you get to that point where you're 65 or 70 and you're thinking about retirement, you have some funds set aside so you can live your life. You can vacation, you can travel the world, or you can just live a normal day-to-day life, but you can have funds set aside to cover your everyday expenses. But in order to get to that point, you're going to have to put money in, and that money is going to be compounding year after year, which is one of the great benefits of setting and forgetting either your 401k or your Roth IRA. But there is a caveat because there are limits on the amount of money that you can contribute to each one of these different accounts per year, and I'll go through those numbers. For example, in your 401k, if you're under the age of 50, you can contribute up to $19,500. And that's for 2020. And that usually increases year over year, depending on how the IRS sets those limits. But that allows you to contribute almost $20,000 into that plan each year. But you have to be making up to $20,000 to contribute that money. So if you're not making that much, then you can only contribute 100% of the money that you are making. But if let's say you're making $100,000, you can contribute, like I said, up to $19,500 for 2020. And if you're over the age of 50, you can contribute another $7,000. So that max bumps up from $19,500 to $26,500. So the government does allow you to do some catch-up contributions if you're over the age of 50, just to make sure that if you do want to invest in your future via a 401k plan, then you have those funds available to invest in it. When you're looking at a Roth IRA, there's some huge differences, mainly being the amount you can contribute per year. And this amount is a lot different. You can only contribute a maximum of $6,000 per year to your Roth IRA. Why is the difference? Because, there should be a lot of options when you're thinking about your retirement plan. And if you just think about compounding $6,000 over the course of 40 years, it might not seem like a lot, but I made a video specifically detailing the amount of money it would take to become a 401k millionaire. So if you guys are interested in seeing the exact numbers that it will take to get to $1 million over the course of, let's say, 20, 30, or 40 years, make sure you click the card up there and you can watch that video, and it'll pretty much detail the amounts, the time limit, and what you need to put into your retirement account to get to that $1 million status. Now, one of the downsides of having a 401k is the fact that even though you contribute year after year after year, let's say after 40 years, you have a side business and you're making so much money that you don't even think about your 401k. Well, when you hit the age of 72, the April after that year, you're going to have to start taking what's called required minimum distributions. And this money is pretty much set by the government, and it states the amount of money that you have to withdraw each year from your 401k in order to meet that limit. So Why is this bad? This is bad because like I said earlier, anytime you take money out of your 401k, you're taxed on it. And you're taxed not only on the money that you put in because it was pre-tax when you originally put it in, but you're also taxed on the interest, dividends, and all the gains that you received over the course of the time that you've been saving up in that account. And with required minimum distributions, let's say you forget to take money out for a specific reason after you hit the age of 72. Not only are you going to have to pay taxes, but you have a 50% penalty on the amount of money that you didn't take out. So just to give you guys an example, let's say the government says you have to take at least $20,000 a year out of your account. If you don't take that amount of money, they're going to tax you with a penalty of 50% on the amount of money that you didn't take out, just due to required minimum distributions. And this is a huge difference because this is not the same with a Roth IRA. You don't have to take money out. You can let it grow as long as you want. But like I said, there's a few caveats that I'm going to talk about here pretty soon about Roth IRAs that make it a little bit different when you're trying to get your money out. So when you're trying to take your money out of your Roth IRA, you're going to have to be mindful of a few certain things, because if not, you're going to have to pay penalties and taxes as well. So for example, let's say you're getting close to retirement and you hit the age of 60 and you're ready to start taking some funds out of that Roth IRA. Well, there's a couple things you have to think about. If you have had the account open for 5 years and you're over the age of 59 and a half, then you're good to go. You don't have to pay any taxes on the gains or the income that you received or the money that you put into that Roth IRA. But let's say you've had the account for under 5 years, or you are under the age of 59 and a half. If you take money out, you're going to have to pay a 10% penalty on the funds that you took out of your Roth IRA. You're also going to have to pay taxes on that money as well, on the gains only, because when you put the money in, it was pre-tax. But that still gives you a little barrier to taking the money out. But I put something together for you guys. I put together an entire video talking about not only 401k hardship withdrawals, but also 401k loans and the CARES Act, the 401k CARES Act, that allows you guys to take money out of your 401k plans with no taxes or deferred taxes if you decide to do a 401k withdrawal. So if you guys want to check that video out, it's been one of my best videos that I've put out so far, and it has a whole lot of information about how you can get money out of your 401k plan to either use it for investing or use it to just live your normal everyday life, pay off debt, things like that. So if you guys want to check that video out, highly suggest you go check that out, because it's a great video detailing exactly how you can pull your money out of your 401k to avoid some of those taxes and penalties that we just described between the 401k and also the Roth IRA. So now at this point, I know what you guys are thinking. The Roth IRA has to be the better option. Not only do you get to grow your money tax deferred, but also when you take the money out, all the money that you gain throughout those years is tax free as well. But you have to think about it. You're paying the money with after tax, so you're not getting the immediate tax deferment and the benefit between the original 401k. There's a lot of pros and cons to the way, so you just have to think about what's the best situation for your current situation. But just to summarize this for you guys, retirement plans were put in place to allow you guys to have money to live your life in your twilight years. They're not perfect, but they do supply a good option to stow away those funds and to use them when you need them in retirement. You can choose a 401k plan if you have an employer that sponsors that plan. You can choose a Roth IRA, or you can use a combination of both. What I do on my channel is I try to give you guys all the information available so you guys can make the best decisions. Although 401k plans versus Roth IRAs are both great retirement plans, that shouldn't be your only retirement plan. There's things like real estate, or you can even turn one of your side hobbies into an actual side hustle and start to make some income off that to provide those funds in your retirement years. You should always be looking for ways to diversify your finances, but I think this video will help you guys out in determining what's a 401k versus what's a Roth IRA, what are the pros and cons of each, and how can they benefit you for your particular situation. But before I get out of here, I have a question for you guys. Drop a comment below and let me know what you guys have right now. Do you guys have a 401k plan from your employer and they're matching it at a certain percentage? Do you guys set up an IRA and a Roth IRA and you're putting your own investment ideas into it yourself and you're doing different stocks, different mutual funds and ETFs or things like that? Or do you have a combination of both? And I'll give you bonus points if you guys have a side hustle. So like I said, drop a comment below. And if you want to see videos like this in the future, I would say it's super important to make sure you hit that subscribe button down there. And don't forget to hit the bell to be updated anytime I put new content out. So I hope you guys got some value out of this video. But until the next time, I'll see you guys later.